Della Leaders Club, it's really great to be a part of this community, and I want to add value as quickly and as deeply as I can. Over the last 10 years as an executive coach, I've come in contact with thousands of leaders, and I've worked with many of them one-on-one. And in those one-on-one meetings, I've learned that there's a huge gap between high-performing leaders and low-performing leaders. The titles, the job titles, CFO, CEO, director, board member, chairman, it doesn't seem to make any difference. It doesn't seem to indicate whether somebody's going to be a good quality leader or a bad quality leader. So I started to do the research. I did the math, and I wrote the book. And I want to give you the thesis of that book right now. It's called Spartan CEO. It's available on Amazon. You can go and pick it up. Or if you just spend the next 8 minutes with me, I'm going to give you about 60% of the thesis, all right? So I found that in Spartan CEO, there was 6 differentiators that really carried the difference between high performing and mediocre or low performing leaders. And they were 6 basic disciplines: fitness, confidence, discipline, connecting, rest, and competition. And I want to tell you just a little bit about those right now. So in fitness, we're talking not just about physical fitness, we're talking about physical, mental, and organizational fitness all at the same time. And yeah, organizational fitness is a thing. But let's start from the basics. Do you think it's important whether a CEO or a C-suiter is physically fit? Well, if you want to make money, then yeah, it's really important. In 2 separate studies of the S&P 500 over a period of a decade, they studied 1,500 companies. And these 2 studies revealed that there's a 57% profitability gap between companies who are led by CEOs who run marathons and companies who are led by CEOs who play golf. So yeah, even though playing a round of golf and running a marathon both take about 4 hours. So it's not really a time thing. Even though they both take about the same amount of time, they don't reveal or give the same amount of energy or leadership that's required to run those organizations. And we're not sure whether or not high-performing organizations hire marathon runners and low-performing organizations hire CEOs who play golf, or if it's the other way around, that if you start to play golf, your organization will perform less. We're not quite sure where the chicken and the egg are, where the cause and the effect are. What we do know is that it makes a huge difference when the CEO is physically fit. Yes. And here's the thing. I think it just comes down to decision-making quality. Fit CEOs have more energy. We're able to take in more information. We're able to concentrate for longer periods of time. We're able to negotiate for the hours and hours and hours it takes to maybe wear down an opponent or build up a supplier or a new relationship. It takes that amount of energy and that amount of time. And so physical fitness is a really great precursor to making sure that you're performing at your absolute best in leadership as a director or a C-suite or just a high-level manager. You need to make sure that you're watching your sleep, your rest, your calorie count, your energy, your exercise, all of that. This machine here is the most important machine that you have. And this machine here is responsible for all of the output of your life. And so you need to take care of it. And yeah, it's a huge indicator of success. The second pillar of success is confidence. And I can't tell you how many C-suiters who are running companies of 10, 20,000 employees still struggle with confidence. It's interesting because at that level, if you're the CEO of a major corporation, who are you going to talk to if you're insecure, right? You're not going to talk to your CEO. You're not going to talk to the board of directors. You're definitely not going to talk to your team. And yeah, you might have a supportive spouse at home, but are they really going to understand what you're going through? So if you're struggling with confidence and you're the CFO of a 20,000 employee corporation, well, it's kind of difficult to find someone that you can really share that with. That's why they choose a coach. And so I end up being in those rooms where these incredibly powerful men and women share their insecurities about whether or not they're doing their job right, whether or not they're executing properly, whether or not they're executing or performing at their absolute best. And for me, I find it such a privilege. And I really want to encourage you with this one huge thesis on confidence. Number one, confidence is a skill. It is always gained. You're not born with it. No human in all of history has ever been born confident, and there's no such thing as a generally confident person. Let me give you an example. If I was to stand on a stage right now in front of 3,000 strangers with a slide deck and a clicker, I would have no problem at all. I'm very confident in that arena. I'm very confident in that context. But if you just change one piece of the context, like you take away my clicker and you give me a piano, and suddenly all of my confidence is gone. I have no idea how to play piano. I'm not good at it, and I'm going to embarrass myself. So there's no such thing as a generally confident person who's confident in every circumstance. All confidence is gained, and it's gained through risk. If you take a risk and you succeed, you gain the confidence associated with having taken that risk. If you take a risk and you fail, then you don't gain the confidence associated with taking that risk, but you do gain learning. Okay? So if you try something and it doesn't go well, you can learn from that and try again. Failure is the conscious choice to ignore the learning opportunity that comes with an undesired or unexpected outcome. So, to wrap that up, again, confidence is a skill. It is always contextual, and it is always gained through risk. So if you're not taking risks in your life, you're not going to gain any confidence. And if you think you can just be more confident without taking any risks, well, that's not human. The third pillar of executive performance is discipline. Now, I know that we talk about employee motivation, we talk about motivation in leadership, and we talk about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation and psychological motivators and physical and environmental motivators, and all of that is really important, but it's really weak. Okay, do you know what motivation is in the human brain? It's a shot of dopamine. It's actually a chemical in your brain, and when you're sitting on the couch and you think, oh, I really need to finish that report, your brain gives you a little hit of dopamine so that you can get the energy you need to stand up and go and start working on the report so you can get it done, right? That's how dopamine works. It's to motivate you. The problem is that motivation doesn't last very long. It lasts somewhere between 5 and 40 seconds. If you just sit on the couch and wait for 40 seconds, that hit of dopamine will burn out. And then guess what happens? Your brain gives you a second hit of dopamine in the anterior insula of the brain, which is associated with the risk avoidance center of your brain. That's right. So if you just sit on the couch and avoid doing something that you know you're supposed to do, your brain will reward you for avoiding the risk associated with doing whatever it is you're supposed to do. So if you have to go exercise, or if you need to learn guitar, or if you need to go and finish the report, or write an email that you've been dodging for a month, right? You get the motivation to do it. That motivation lasts 40 seconds. You have 40 seconds to stand up, make a choice, and make a movement to get into the direction of whatever it is that you need to get done. Remember, motivation will get you to the starting line, but only discipline will get you to the finish. Motivation is weak, and discipline is strong. The fourth pillar of executive performance is connecting. We are a species of social beings. All humans have survived for the last million years because we've survived together. We've worked together, and individualism among humans, strictly speaking, has been fatal for us. So our best practice for survival has been to find things that we can work on together and then provide for each other and protect each other. In the past, those were we called them families and tribes, nations, empires. More recently, we have businesses, we have companies, we have entrepreneurships, and now we have these incredible economic games that we play. So we basically get together and we play economic games, hoping that if we play the game right, more resources will come into our economic team. We'll be able to share those resources with each other, and we'll all be able to provide for each other and protect each other. And that's how humans have been surviving on the planet for 1,000,000 years, is by playing games and winning as teams and sharing the win. Okay? Now, your ability to play the game really well, it hinges on two things. One is your capacity to play the game. If you're going to play football, you have to run fast and kick accurately. That's pretty much it, right? There's a capacity that you have to have in order to play the game. But second to that, you got to be a team player. And for that, you need to be able to connect. When we connect with another human being, we have a specific chemical in our brain that is produced. It's called Oxytocin. When oxytocin is produced in the human brain, that is the only way that any human has ever experienced love, belonging, connection, empowerment. When we feel like we're connected with somebody else, that is oxytocin in the brain. And yeah, look, we're weird and wonderful and amazing creatures, and sometimes terrible and horrible and mean, and sometimes all on the same day. But we are definitely hackable. Okay, and one of the ways that you can hack another person and help them to want to work with you so that you can provide for and protect each other is through the production of oxytocin. When you produce oxytocin in your brain and they produce oxytocin in their brains, then you're gonna be more loyal to each other. You're gonna make different quality of decisions for each other. You're gonna be helping each other behind each other's backs when the other person's not looking. And the best way to produce oxytocin in the mind of another person is eye contact. Yeah, and not too much eye contact, right? Like if you don't make eye contact for more than 2 seconds, then people will think that you're dodging them, right? Like if I'm only making eye contact with you for like half a second, then you'll think that I'm avoiding you, okay? So you got to make eye contact for at least 2 seconds for it to be meaningful and start to produce oxytocin in the mind of the other person. But you don't want to be producing oxytocin or making eye contact for more than 6 seconds without blinking or looking away or some other break, right? Because if you make eye contact with a human being for more than 9 seconds, generally speaking, psychologically, what it means is you either want to fight them or flirt with them. Let's call it flirt, right? So it's the 2 F's, fight and flirt. There's some other agenda for why you're making eye contact with them. It's creepy. You don't want to do that. So somewhere between 2 and 5 or 6 seconds is pretty much normal. And if you haven't researched it before, do a Google search for the eye contact experiments, the 4-minute eye contact experiments. It's really fascinating what happens to an individual when some stranger is making eye contact with them for 4 minutes at a time. People have fallen in love and they get up and they hug each other, and some people cry, and it's really fascinating actually, because eye contact has been a 1,000,000-year-old best practice for connecting and for producing oxytocin in the mind of another human being. The 5th pillar of executive performance is rest. Yeah, you need to rest like a boss if you're going to win in this world. And look, your body, this incredible machine, it needs time off. It needs to relax. You know what happens when you sleep? Your brain is just as active when you're sleeping as it is when you're awake, but you have 80% less work to do because your visual cortex is shut down and your prefrontal cortex is shut down. So what is your busy brain doing at night? Well, I'll tell you. It slips down into the delta state where it starts to heal broken muscles. It starts to heal around the body. It finds the things. It's like the supermarket when they clean up in between the aisles at night, and then they restock the shelves. It's like that. Sleep is like restocking the shelves and cleaning up the aisles. And it's really important that we clean up the aisles because one of the aisles that we have in our brainstem here produces beta amyloids during the day. And when we're awake, we're producing all of these beta amyloid proteins, and they kind of build up in the brainstem. And they've been associated with Alzheimer's and dementia later on in life. If they build up too much, they can be really bad for you. And sleep is the only way that we flush out those beta amyloids. So you really need to get into that delta, that REM, that deep sleep every night to make sure you're flushing the beta amyloids and healing what's going on in your body. And if you're too stressed and you're producing too much adrenaline and too much cortisol, that's going to interrupt your sleep and you're not going to be able to get enough rest. Now, how much is enough rest? Rule of thumb is about 7 hours, okay? Not much less than that, not much more than that. Less than 6 is going to hurt you. More than 8 is not going to benefit you. There's the law of diminishing returns that kind of peels off after 8 hours. But if you get less than 6 hours of sleep a night for 2 consecutive nights, your performance in general in all areas of your life will decrease by an average of 12.1%. And it will stay like that for 6 days, even if you start sleeping more than 7 hours on night 3. Yeah, so when you're talking about an executive who's making $100 million decisions every day, if an executive's had a big weekend, 2 5-hour nights in a row, and they walk into work Monday morning thinking they're going to perform at their absolute best, really they're not. And boards of directors have been hiring me to figure out what the cost of restlessness and stress and cortisol is in their organizations. And yeah, I've got math for that. The math is all in the book, by the way. You can find it yourself. It's right here. It's not very difficult, and I can teach you if you reach out to me personally. But yeah, there's a bottom line cost associated with a lack of rest among executives and high-level leaders in organizations. So you need to rest like a boss. And one of the things that I've been teaching managers and leaders about that I'm so excited about has been how to rest when you're awake. You can shut down parts of your brain while you're conscious and while you're highly productive. You can do that by bending time. And in time bending for managers, we talk about mindfulness as a way of slowing time down so your brain perceives time as passing more slowly, and it perceives that you have more time in the day if you practice mindfulness. It's a great skill. And the other one is flow. If you practice flow state for your productivity, time compresses and it goes by very fast, and you move quicker, you're more accurate, you're more productive. You can be 5 times more productive if you work in flow. In fact, a study by McKinsey over a period of a decade found that executives who can consistently work in flow are 500% more productive than their steady state peers. Yeah, and it's a skill. You can learn to do it. Also, it'll be the subject of my next book. And the last pillar of executive performance is competition. Now, I know we love competition, right? That's how you're going to get into the game. Entrepreneurs get in the game because they want to compete. And leaders, they move up because they want to compete, sometimes with other leaders in their organization, sometimes with other organizations. Sometimes it's products competing with products and services against services. And so competition has been a best practice for how human society has developed over the last million years, and even more so over the last 350 years, when our competition has been less military, less violent, and much more economic. We have these elegant economic games that we play now. Okay, so not talking too much about organizational competition, which is something I can talk to you about another time, but let's talk about your personal life and your personal level of competition. Highest level players in every sport, in every game, in every art, they compete with each other not to beat each other. They compete with each other to develop themselves. So for example, you can take Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, two of the most popular, best football players of the last 2 decades. I think between the two of them, they've passed the Ballon d'Or back and forth for like a decade. And for that 10 years, it's been like Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi and number 3, right? Like there's been this massive performance gap between these two high performance players and number 3 because they're not competing at the same level. And Cristiano Ronaldo has said in an interview that having Lionel Messi in the world undoubtedly makes him a better player. And Lionel Messi has said the same. And I want you to find people in the world that you can benchmark with your performance with. I know that for myself, whenever I'm doing anything fitness related, finding somebody next to me that's a little bit stronger and a little bit faster than me helps me to benchmark my performance and up my game. It's the same in writing. It's the same in training. It's the same in leadership development. It's the same in executive coaching. I'm always competing with someone who doesn't know that I'm competing with them. And that's okay, because I'm not competing to beat them. I don't care about winning. I care about getting stronger and faster and better performing myself. I want to compete with me yesterday, not with you today. But I'm always picking benchmarks out of the market to find out where I am in my state of play and making sure that I'm always improving by benchmarking myself against people that are stronger, faster, and better than me. And that is how you can use competition to drive your personal performance. And look, I'll be honest with you, it's been more than 8 minutes because I'm really passionate about these subjects. But if you've stuck with me for these 15 minutes, these could be the most important 15 minutes of your career. Just pick out one thing from this last 15 minutes that you want to try to implement and implement it. And if you don't know how to do that, reach out to me directly. I will help you. Just DM me, message me, find me on social media, write me an email, and I will definitely help you try to implement one of these things in your life. I'm wishing you all of the best. It's so great to be a part of Della, and I'm really looking forward to what we can do together in this community.